No intro, no fuck you to the YouTube order. We're just gonna jump straight into the questions that came over from Prestige Gamers. First question from Grimoire Fang. Something has been bugging me for a while, and it is, what exactly is your job? Are you an accountant or something? My job is 100% top secret. If I told you I had to kill you, but I will tell you this, I'm not an accountant. I don't deal with numbers all day. I'm certainly not a CPA. Next question from a bite-sized taco. You stated in the past that you don't think esports is a real sport and is more of competitive recreation. Still, esports has grown to rival real sports, and he mentions the League of Legends World Finals had 36 million viewers. We're going to talk about it in a second. And even has gone to huge venues such as the Staples Center and Madison Square Garden. He went to Madison Square Garden, noticed some of the local employees didn't like esports being there, usually through some comments on the viewers or on the event. Even when ESPN did a broadcast on ESPN2 of Heroes of the Storm event, plenty of people, Colin Cowherd especially, were quick to criticize and attack ESPN and esports. So, what's your opinion on esports being more exposed to the general public through well-known stadiums, TV, and such? Now, a few things to note about those numbers that you mentioned, because as much as esports will point to 36 million, the numbers really can't be verified in total. Riot actually counted up to 32 million since the championship was streamed on multiple sources. So it's not hard to put the stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same exact time on PC. Plus, of those numbers, Twitch said of the 25 million they reported, 11 million came from South Korea alone, a country with only 52 million people. So they mean to tell me more than 1 out of 5 people in one country alone watched that event? And keep in mind, the Grand Champion is sponsored by the largest telecom company in South Korea. So needless to say, 11 million viewers from one country alone, where the top team is sponsored by a telecom company. That doesn't sound quite suspicious. Nevertheless, it's still a very high number of viewers without the questionable figures from South Korea throughout the tournament. There's no question watching other people play a video game is big business these days. I refuse to call that shit a sport. And listen, just because ESPN puts something on TV doesn't make it a fucking sport. ESPN only cares about ratings. Let's get that out of the way. If there were ratings for watching ice melt, they would call it the Watching Ice Melt Championship and show that shit on prime time if it meant ratings. After all, they televised LeBron James announcing what team he was going to be signing with, which shows it's not a network designed around sports. It's designed around ratings and entertainment. So don't give me that shit just because it's on ESPN, it's a sport. No, that shit will never fucking qualify as a sport. In the long run, watching video games is going to be an unsustainable business as kids get older. What these competitions are relying on is a very narrow age group at the moment. It's relying on the most unstable and self-absorbed age group, which is teenage to young 20-year-old males. It is by far and away the most difficult demographic to make money off of. Companies know this, and they know that the only way they're going to sustain this business is to appeal to an even younger audience to make sure that they grow up in the business as well. There's no question the business is growing exponentially right now, and that companies are making money off of this. Players are making money off of this, but the model for the business all depends on how long they can keep the most unsustainable and unreliable age and sex group to pay attention. My guess is they're going to make boatloads of money off of it right now, but once the fad wears out, once the gaming genre changes to something else and people move on to playing something else, you're going to notice all that money starts to lower over time. I mean, just look at YouTube as a perfect example. How much money did YouTube and YouTubers make at its peak? And over time, people got bored. People left. They got tired of it. People stopped watching. People stopped making videos. Google has been reporting declining views and sales for years now, from big channels all the way down to smaller channels. Channels have been reporting lower earnings, lower revenue, lower subscriber amounts, and the YouTube appeal to all walks of life. We're not just talking about video games. We're talking about all the videos that you have on there, from music videos to how-to guides to makeup tutorials, whatever the fuck you want. Big business all across the board. All of it has been making less money over the years. So imagine what's going to happen when a video game fad wears out. If YouTube, which is supposed to appeal to a much larger audience, eventually peaks out on its popularity, can you imagine what's going to happen with a video game, a specific genre, to a specific age group and target number? It's popular now. There's no question about it. The numbers are inflated and they're growing because it's a current fad. But fads always wear out over time, especially if you're targeting such a select audience. Next question from Ballsack Boy. So who's winning the Super Bowl this year? You know, here's the funny thing about predictions. I can make a prediction right now. I can sit here and say that the Panthers or the Patriots are going to meet themselves in the Super Bowl. However, if Tom Brady or Cam Newton were to get injured, what do you think would happen to those teams? They wouldn't stand a chance of making the Super Bowl when it comes to the playoffs. So regardless of whatever I say right now is not going to happen in a few weeks. And people are going to come back to this prediction and laugh at just how wrong it is. But I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say we're going to have one of the most boring Super Bowls in history with two teams that will probably not be favored to win at all, and that's going to be the Cardinals over the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So now that I jinxed these two teams in the Super Bowl, I'm guarantee you neither one of them are going to make it. Next question from Mako Boy. What is the first video game you played? I know I'm going to be dating myself by saying this shit, but I was a little kid when I played it. I played on Atari Adventure. Anybody that played that glitchy shit knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Oh man, that game was a fucking nightmare to play, but I was a little boy. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Basically, I was put in front of a goddamn controller. I said, here, have fun with this shit. I played with my little joystick, my one red button, played Adventure, didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but that was my very first video game that I ever played. Next question from Ace of Spades, and he throws up a topic on this motherfucker, music, hip-hop, and rap. Now, he writes this whole thing about this asshole, Fetty Wap. He wanted to part ways with P. Dice, whatever. You guys can read the question. I'm going to leave it up there right there so you guys can read that shit without me having to go through this whole shit. Now, boils down to this. Drama in music nowadays. Can I just tell you, drama back when I listened to music was Biggie and Tupac trying to kill each other. So this bullshit now, oh, this dude wasn't at my concert and he spent all my money. Get the fuck out of here with this shit. Listen, man, music is nothing the way it was like it was back in the day. There is never going to be music with today like there was back in the day. Between the auto-tune bullshit, between the fact that you don't make money, the fact that people who had records before actually had talent, where now you don't even need to have talent, you just need to have a hook or a gimmick that people will buy into. Music today is garbage. The fact that when people told me about Fetty Wap, and I was like, who the fuck is that to begin with? I had no fucking clue who this guy was until the past two singles came out. Even then, I listened to it, and I was like, this is the crap people listen to nowadays? Music today is so fucking terrible that every single musical artist that's in the top 10 could drop dead right the fuck tomorrow, and I wouldn't give a shit. I wouldn't even care, because chances are every single person that has a top 10 single right now, I don't even listen to that bullshit. I want my music from when I was growing up. I want music from before 2005 when people actually sang, people actually rapped, people could actually play a fucking instrument. People knew how to do more things with music than they know how to do now, basically with their little fucking auto-tune bullshit. That was when music was at its peak. The garbage we have now, take that shit and shove it up someone's ass. Maybe even include up Fetty Wap's ass. Next question from Jay Stone. How do you feel about Congress trying to pass H.R. 158, a double standard to Persians, even though Arabs and Pakistanis cause damage to the U.S. as well? Now, for those of you who don't know what H.R. 158 is, it's this proposition that Congress is trying to pass through in order to protect the visa program. However, it is some of the most discriminating shit you can imagine, because they're not just trying to protect the visa program overall. What they're trying to do is they're trying to discriminate against certain countries or certain ethnicities when they come back to the United States or when they're trying to come to the United States. So the idea that we have here is we have the visa program. Whether you travel abroad, whether you come back, whether you want to come to the United States, the visa program has a lot of holes when it comes to security. There is no question about that. Someone that wants to do this country harm could very easily come through the visa program, come to the United States, start their own little terrorist cell, and chances are we wouldn't know about that. So Congress came up with this idea to close some of the loopholes. And in all honesty, I don't have a problem with that. The problem that Congress has, and this comes from the hate-mongering side, this comes from the fearful side, this comes from all the people that like Donald Trump, is that they want to restrict this to just a certain group of countries. Iran, Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Sudan. These are the countries that obviously have issues when it comes to domestic terrorism. These are countries that are obviously harboring, whether it's their choice or not, some of the major terrorist groups that are out there in the world, whether it's ISIS or Al-Qaeda, you name it. So what the government wants to do is they want to basically discriminate against anybody coming from any one of those countries. It could be a U.S. citizen traveling over to see their family in Iran or Iraq, whatever the case may be, and then when they come back, the United States wants the ability to deny their entry back to the country. They want the ability to say, you know what, because you stood in a country that is a war-torn country that might be influenced by some of the terrorist countries out there, we're not going to let you back in this country. We're not going to let you set foot in the United States, even though you are a U.S. citizen. Now, granted, I don't mind closing up the loopholes when it comes to the visa program. I don't mind being a little more stringent when it comes to making sure that the people that are entering this country are not radicalized, are not part of any terrorist group, or have any connections to any terrorist group. But the fact that they want to discriminate, they want to be prejudiced towards just a few countries is total fucking bullshit. If you were to say, you know what, the same treatment that we're giving to Iraq and Iran, we're going to give to France, we're going to give to England, we're going to give to Australia, cool, no issue with that whatsoever. But when you start saying we're going to purposely pick just a few countries to monitor, then that's discrimination. That's the absolute definition of discrimination. I highly doubt it's going to pass, but this just goes to show the amount of bullshit that our Congress will put the American people through. Next question from Swag Bar Down Hockey. Do you agree with the British philosopher Thomas Hobbes in saying that human nature is evil and the purpose of the government should be to control, or with French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau in saying that human nature is good and that citizens should be actively involved in their government? Not as much a question of authoritarian versus democratic governments, but if humans are naturally born evil, or is it the society that makes them evil? It sounds like I'm doing someone's homework for them. First of all, people are not born with hate. They have to learn that. Babies are not brought into this world hating one another, and that's something they will learn through their environment and early existence from their parents mainly. Over time, they're going to learn from friends, they're going to learn from other kids, they're going to learn from other adults, family members, siblings, you name it. With the exception of somebody who's mentally ill or unstable, nobody is born with hate or evil. Absolutely not. Now, governments were not created to control people. They were created to uphold common laws that people should have agreed to. While I don't disagree with the fact that people should be involved in the government one way or another, whether it's voting on the laws, voting on the politicians you want in office, or actually running for office yourself, I don't think it's mandatory. People should have some understanding of government. They should know the laws, and especially know the people that they're trying to put in office. You don't have to be an expert in government, but when people are completely clueless about laws and how government works, and then complain about how life is unfair, or how the government is crooked, or how the system is broken, that's a direct result of people ignoring how their government actually fucking works. But humans are not born evil. They learn hate from their surroundings, and considering we're the most highest cognitive species on the planet, that alone shows we're the only species that can learn how to hate something. Next question from Happy Dude 12. If you could have anyone locked in a room so that you could torment them from a day, who would it be and how would you torment them? Very easily, Kanye West. Oh man, I'd lock that motherfucker in a closet. And what I would do to torment this son of a bitch is for 24 hours, I would play non-stop video of comments absolutely bashing him as a human being, bashing his music, telling him what a piece of shit he is, showing that everything he does shows he is nothing more than a self-absorbed asshole, and every single person, including famous people, all the way down to little kids, telling him what a piece of shit human being that motherfucker is. Now granted, his ego is so fucking inflated that this probably wouldn't even bother him, but in the background, for 24 hours, all I would do is play the Troll of Love song. Just let him torment him with that bullshit, and then on top of that, have every single person within a 24-hour span just constantly bash and rip the living shit out of that motherfucker, because the fact is, eventually, that son of a bitch's ego would break if he was tortured in that kind of way. Next question from No Pointers. I'm currently developing a 2D side-scrolling action RPG centered around 80s cheesiness. Basically neon grids, bad one-liners, over-the-top action hero bullshit. So my question is, if you have an idea for a crazy-ass weapon, ability map, or anything else in the game, nothing's off limits, and you'll also be credited in the game. And also he wants to throw out some solicitations. If anyone has an idea, they can give some input. He'll basically steal that and put it in his game. You know, with any gun or when you come up with any idea, you need to make sure that things are balanced. Because you can only imagine, if you gave people the ultra mega motherfucker gun that disintegrates anything it touches, including bosses, basically, they'd be like God mode activated, and how challenging would that gun be? So, if you want an idea for a weird gun that would be memorable, how about a gun that I would call the Trident? It would shoot out 3 grappling hooks or something, attach themselves to 3 different enemies, and then the gun would pull all 3 of those enemies close together, instantly killing the guy that was stuck in the middle. Essentially, the other 2 would crush the one in the middle for an instant kill. You could then Goomba stomp the final 2 enemies that were stuck together, just leave them alone because they would never be able to escape the suction of the grappling hooks or whatever the fuck it is. Or however else you kill the enemies in the game, you can certainly do so that way. You know, I don't think I've seen a gun do that in a video game as of today. You know, I could be wrong, but I know personally, I've never seen a gun tie up 3 enemies together, killing the one in the middle instantly. So you can put that in your fucking game and give me the credit for it. Call it the Loco gun. Next question from Hurishima for PSN. I hope I said that shit right. Do you plan on possibly making a Blueprint series for Destiny, because we all know Bungie fucked that shit up? Believe it or not, I did it already, right before Crota ends. So we're talking right from the release of Destiny to right before they actually released the first DLC plan. So we're talking over a year ago, I want to say 14 months ago minimum, I did a whole 10-part series on what Destiny could have done for the future DLC. So I've already done it. I'm not going to do another one, but I already did one that showed what Destiny could have done for future games. Next up, from the guy with no gamer tag, which names makes you want to rant the most? Bethesda, Treyarch, or Star Citizen? God damn, you picked 3 hard ones. Star Citizen, not so much. I mean, they haven't really put out a game yet, obviously. They have some of their fucking issues we're going to talk about a little bit later. But if it came down to those two, I mean, if I really had to pick one, I'd probably go with Treyarch. And the big reason why I picked Treyarch is because they have to lie to sell their game. Bethesda doesn't lie until after the fact. Bethesda doesn't lie until after they made their money, and then they try and bullshit PlayStation 4 owners by saying, oh, I guess we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. Treyarch has to lie ahead of time in order to sell their products. They've always lied ahead of time. They're always going to lie ahead of time. That's just part of their marketing campaign in order for people to go out and buy their product. Next question from Camper5034. I'm wondering if you could give me some tips for when I get a PlayStation 4. And also, what game should I look into getting besides Call of Shitty, Broken Field, GTA, and Destiny? Well, you name four of them. Well, Grand Theft Auto will probably be the one that you could probably get. But if you want a decent tip when you go out and get a PlayStation 4, the first thing I could tell you is get a better hard drive. Since Sony allows you to replace the hard drives, you can get a much bigger hard drive depending on whatever they sell nowadays. But you could get a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte hard drive, and it's incredibly simple to install. I mean, I'm no technical fucking wizard, so I went on the internet, went on YouTube, and I saw the tips on how to do that shit. But as soon as I replaced the hard drive, I replaced it with the, what is it, the hybrid drive, you know, the ones that are supposed to be a little faster and shit like that. I replaced it with the hybrid drive. It's a lot faster, stores a lot more memory than the base product that they give you. So if you had to do one thing, go out there and replace the hard drive immediately. Don't wait until you play games. Do it immediately. As soon as you buy your PlayStation 4, buy an upgraded hard drive and you can replace it right away. As far as what games to look into, you know, it really depends on what you like doing. If you want PlayStation exclusives, obviously Bloodborne was probably the top PlayStation exclusive at that point. Uncharted's eventually going to come out. That's going to be a top exclusive once it comes out. As far as cross-platform games, The Witcher 3 received rave reviews. So if you want to have an incredible game, you can go out and buy The Witcher 3. I would recommend Metal Gear. Metal Gear is a pretty good game, but the fact is, if you don't know what happened in all the prior Metal Gear games, you're going to play that shit. They act like you already know what you're supposed to do, and then you're going to be like, well, what the fuck just happened? So I wouldn't recommend it if you haven't played it already, but it's still a pretty good game. Don't buy Call of Duty. Don't buy Battlefield. Grand Theft Auto, probably. That was a great campaign, so if you want to buy that one, you can certainly do so. Don't buy Destiny at this point. If anything, wait till Destiny 2. If you like sports games, it's just a matter of picking out which one is the better sports game between the companies that might be competing for the market. But other than Bloodborne, I say Uncharted, the rest of it is just really up to your preference. Next question from Luminous Spark. You need to see a whole paragraph on this motherfucker. He says a whole lot of nice things, and like I always tell people, I appreciate them when they tell me that they like my channel, they like my content, and that I've been entertaining them. But in the middle of all that fucking paragraph, in that wall of text, he has one little question. What is my opinion on furries? Furies or furries or whatever the hell it is. The furry fandom is a subculture interested in fictional anthropomorphic animal characters with human personalities and characteristics or in sexual interest toward them. Now, I'll tell you right the fuck now, I had to Google this shit to see what the fuck you were talking about. Because I never heard of this shit before. And then when I saw the description and I read about this, I was sitting here like, seriously, this is a fucking thing? Personally, I don't care about the dressing up part. Grown-ass men wanting to wear costumes that mimic furry creatures, you know, it's no different than people who go to Comic-Con and they wear outfits or they create outfits or some shit like that. Or they go to Times Square and they put on a fucking Spider-Man outfit for tips. Personally, I don't give a fuck. If it's just an outfit, who gives a shit? However, if this is a sexual thing, where people want to have sex with these furry things or whatever the fuck it is they want to do, then they must have some serious fucking mental issues. Now, from what I've read, and to be fair, very little of these furry motherfuckers have sexual fantasies about this shit. It's a very small percentage that actually has that, so it's certainly not all of them, and it's only a handful that have really been stereotyped because of this. So I don't want to make it seem like all these people fantasize about that shit. But as long as they're just wearing costumes for shit and giggles, I don't see an issue with that. You want to wear a fucking chipmunk outfit, you want to wear a squirrel outfit, by all fucking means, I don't give a shit. But if this is some kind of sexual fantasy, motherfucker needs some help. I don't give a shit. You need some fucking help if you feel like you want to have sex with some fucking furry ass looking fox motherfucker. That shit ain't right. Alright, we've come to the end of day number 2, so I've answered all the questions over at Prestige Gamers as well as some over on YouTube. We still got some more questions to go, so if you haven't seen your question as of yet, chances are it's still coming, so you want to stay tuned over the next few days. That way I can answer all the questions. As always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, and I'll see you in tomorrow's question and answer session video.